Hey, what's up? This your boy Big Man. You already know what it is, man. So let's get right to it. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about G Herbo. And specifically, we're going to be talking about a set of interviews that are trending right now on YouTube currently, right? Now, there's a guy by the name of Nolimit Kyro. Now, Nolimit Kyro actually comes from the same hood as G Herbo. He's known G Herbo since like 2008 and knows his whole backstory. And he's saying some things about G Herbo that's got the internet going crazy because it contradicts everything we know about the rap star G Herbo to this date, right? He talks about their relationship in the past and how he was cool with King Von and a whole bunch of other things in this series of interviews. But what I want to touch on is how he pretty much put Lil Bibby and G Herbo on blast. And specifically G Herbo. He revealed a lot of, his story in his past with G Herbo and describes how he kind of wasn't like that and how they really met, the origin story of him and G Herbo being homeboys and everything up until this point, and how he basically has turned his back on his homeboys coming up, man. And that he had made a lot of promises about cats getting on in the rap game that just have never materialized in real life. You know what I'm saying? Now, before we break this down and talk about this interview, do me a favor. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And man, let's get it. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, man, let's talk about this interview with Nolimit Kyro. Now, I suggest you go watch 16 Shot Visuals interview in its entirety. Like, I think there's like 4 or maybe 5 parts to it right now, but it's getting a lot of traction, man. It's got a lot of people talking, so let's talk about what they talking about, man. Now, G Herbo is known by most people who follow drill rap as one of the top artists, man. And if you were to listen to stories about G Herbo and his lyrics, you would think, man, he was built from the club, right? He was really about that life that he's talking about. And a lot of drill rappers, they carry that like a badge of honor, right? But it seems, based on what Kyro was saying in this interview, that G Herbo kind of just came along in a weird way. Like the dude, he told the story, and when he said that he met G Herbo and was like, yo, man, where you from? Kind of hit him up or whatnot. G Herbo was like, yeah, I'm from where you from. And he was like, okay, that's weird. I don't know you. And they basically became homeboys then. Now, to his defense, G Herbo at the time, he said, was like, I think they were like 13 or something, 12, 13 years old when they met. So it was like one of those situations. Like, they first built their relationship and friendship then and knew each other from then on. But he said G Herbo really wasn't in the streets like that, which is a good thing, man. Everybody ain't got to be on the block and everybody ain't supposed to be in the streets. And just because you rap about it don't mean you have to be living that life. I'm not one of those people who push that line, right? But the way that he describes it made it seem like G Herbo totally fabricated a lot of the things that he said in interviews and a lot of the things that he says in his music, So basically the person he was or is really isn't what he's been saying in his lyrics, according to what Kyro said. Now, I don't know if that's facts, so I'm not going to say it's facts, but that's the picture that he painted. Also, he talked about the early makings of drill music, and he gave a lot of credit to acts like King Louie, for actually creating drill music, man, which is interesting. And he said Chief Keef and those cats did not start drill, as opposed to what a lot of people thought. Even though a lot of fans knew that, it was just interesting that he was giving up those props, right? Now, he also talked about how he had been locked up a lot and his relationship with King Von. Now, him and King Von were obviously homeboys based on what he was saying. He was like, they was really cool. Like tight. You see what I'm saying? So I was impressed by that because it goes to show that, those alliances that they say that they have on social media, some of them are true. And based on what Kyro was saying, there's a lot of dudes who are really about that, but 90% of the people in the rap game who's screaming that stuff, it's almost like in third person. It's a play on what they've heard other people said they did, and they're even shocked when they hear people putting real stuff into their lyrics. Like, if somebody is really about the streets or whatever, they don't even like that type of attention, it made sense. It just made a lot of sense. Now, he goes on to talk about different parts of Chicago as well. And, his relationship with the different parts of the city, which was, there was a point where the interviewer had to stop him because there was a point where he was getting kind of disrespectful. But other than that, it seemed like dude was being legit about what he was saying, Now, what's got the interviews trending and where it took a different turn was when Kyro started laying into G Herbo and Lil Bibby for not doing anything for the homies, man, not doing anything for their hood. He was basically putting it out there that G Herbo made a lot of promises on his way up. He was telling guys that he would get them signed. He was telling guys that he had a record contract coming from him, even intercepting when guys had legitimate deals on the table, according to what Kyro said. And G Herbo would come in and be like, nah, man, y'all with me, I'm going to get you signed or whatever, and never got the dude signed. Just kind of strung him along as muscle or to have his back throughout the hip-hop game. And now that he's living off somewhere else has kind of left him in the background, man. We've seen this play out a lot in hip-hop. A guy comes up, he might not be as tough as he's proclaiming in his music, and I'm not saying this is G Herbo exactly, so don't take this and run with it, but he's got a lot of guys around him who are really about that, who are really from that, and he has to carry those guys around him for a while because of what the things that he's saying, the dissing that he's doing, and eventually he's got to separate himself from those guys because at the core heart of it, he's an artist. And Kyro said this about G Herbo. He said from the time that they first hooked up a mic and were just playing background beats on a separate player, they would just hear G Herbo rap and they knew he had talent. They were like, hey, dog, this dude he really got it. You know what I'm saying? He could really make it. So they thought, based on him being from their hood and their neighborhood or where they're from, their side of town, that, he would carry them up with them. And that is always the dream. If you notice, this story plays out in so many different areas. And Kyro was honest about that. He was like, this happens in every city, man. A dude comes up as a rap star, and if he really not from that, he carries these tough dudes with him. And, eventually he has to separate himself from them, or at least he thinks he has to separate himself from them. And, G Herbo's way of keeping them around was by making a lot of promises, allegedly, that he couldn't fulfill. He also talked about King Von, and he said this specifically, and I noticed this. He said King Von was really about that stuff, though. Like, the stuff that he was talking in his raps, he was like, he was really, really about that. Like, no cap or anything on that, which is interesting, man. Not to say that it was a good thing, but one of the good points of that is when he said, when he came back to O Block and dropped off that money. He's like, Von was a real one, so he would do something like that. He expected something like that from G Herbo, but it just never happened. And also Lil Bibby. Now, Lil Bibby is successful as an executive in the rap game right now, right? He took a whole different path. I mean, Lil Bibby was one of those rappers that everybody was touting as one of the next up and coming, but he started signing acts on his own, like Juice WRLD and Kid Leroy and all these people, man. And they ended up being way more successful than probably he could have been as a rapper. So he really, really made some really good business moves on that end. Now, Lil Bibby definitely seems like he stays away from all the Chicago drill stuff. So there's really nothing there to connect him to his old neighborhood. And there's no reason why he would probably go back there as much as, say, like a G Herbo or something like that. And even at this point, G Herbo's so far removed, man. It's just a telltale sign of what happens in hip-hop all the time, man. You got a guy, he comes out, he has talent. At first, his crew is humongous. It's everybody from his hood and all that. But eventually, it starts to dwindle down. And some people are always going to feel like they're left behind. Even though Kyro is doing his own thing, I think he's just trying to be honest about his take on the story and his relationship with G Herbo and Bibby to this date. Now, with that, what do you guys think about that? Have you heard these interviews or watched them, I should say? And do you think that G Herbo owes his old hood and his old homies anything? Or is this just a part of progressing in life? Now, with that, this has been your boy Big Man. Do me a favor. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And make sure you hit that notification bell so that way you get a notification every time I drop this hot content. And we out of here. Peace.